There is a river in the north, hidden between old willow trees and mist-covered hills, where people go when their hearts become too heavy to carry. They say, if you stand at its edge and whisper your sorrow into the water, the river will take it from you. No one knows where the sadness goes. No one knows why the river listens. But in the village nearby, everyone knows one thing. You never leave that river exactly the same as you arrived. And the strangest part? The river remembers every story it has ever been given. Tonight, I want to tell you about the woman who learned that some pain can be released, but never truly erased. Long before roads were built, before maps had names for the hills and forests, there was only a narrow path of stone that led to the river. It was called Safa River by the old villagers. Safa, meaning clean, pure, clear. But no one thought of it as an ordinary river. It never roared after storms. It never flooded the fields. It moved quietly, almost carefully, as if it were trying not to disturb the world around it. The elders used to say the river was born from tears, not human tears alone, but the grief of the earth itself, the grief of mothers who waited for sons who never returned from war, the grief of lovers separated by winter and distance, the grief of children who grew up too fast, the grief of old men who had buried everyone they once loved. All of it, somehow, found its way into the water, and because the river knew sorrow so well, it learned how to carry it. For generations, people came in silence. A widow who could no longer bear sleeping on one side of the bed. A father who still set an extra plate at dinner even, though his daughter had been gone for years. A young boy, ashamed of the tears he cried in secret. A woman whose smile had become so practiced, even she no longer knew when it was real. They would kneel by the shore, whisper what hurt, touch the water, and when they stood again, the pain would feel lighter, not gone, but lighter, as if someone else had agreed to hold it for a while. One autumn evening, a woman named Mira came to the river. She was still young, but sorrow had a way of adding years to a face once. Mira had been known for laughing too loudly, for singing while she worked, for talking to flowers as if they were listening now. She hardly spoke at all. 3 winters ago, her little son Yasin had fallen ill. It began with a fever, then a cough, then long nights of holding his tiny hand while promising him he would be all right, even when fear was already spreading. Through her like ice, the village. Healer tried everything. Her husband prayed until his voice cracked. Mira stayed awake for 5 nights, refusing to leave his side. But some stories do not bend for love. By the 7th morning, Yasin was gone, and after that, life did something cruel. It continued. The bread still needed baking. The laundry still needed washing. The sun still rose. As if nothing had happened, Mira hated all of it. She hated the birds outside the window, the toys she could not throw away, the silence in his room. But most of all, she hated her own memory. Because memory was merciless, it replayed the fever, the last breath, the final whisper, Ami, don't cry. And so she came to the river for one reason. The riverbank was empty when she arrived. Mist drifted low over the water like pale silk. The willow branches bent toward the surface, their leaves brushing the current as though comforting it. Mira stood at the edge and stared into the water. It reflected no stars, no clouds, only her face, tired, hollow, waiting. She had been told what to do. Bring something that holds the memory. The old women in the village had said, speak the sorrow aloud. Let the river decide what it will take. So Mira reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a tiny wooden horse. Its paint had long faded. One wheel was missing. Through puddles, even into bed beside him, Mira held the toy in both hands. I am tired of hearing his voice in my dreams and losing him. Again, in the morning, I am tired of pretending. I'm grateful for the years I had when all I can think about are the years I lost. I am tired of loving someone I cannot hold. The river moved gently, as if listening. Mira stepped closer. I don't want this pain anymore, she said. Take it, please. Take the part of me that still stands outside his door at night. Take the memory of his fever. Take the sound of his last breath. Take everything that hurts. And, with trembling hands, she placed the little wooden horse on the water. The whole river went still. Yasin had dragged it everywhere as a child. Through dirt, her voice broke as she whispered into the dark. The river pulled it slowly toward the center, where the mist was thickest. And then, the current stopped. Then suddenly, they all did. At first, no words came. It should have sunk. Instead, it floated. I am tired of waking up to an empty room. The air changed. The wind disappeared. The leaves fell still. Then the water began to glow, softly at first, like moonlight trapped beneath glass. And from the middle of the river, a voice rose, deep, ancient, gentle. Why do you ask me to take what is made of love? Mira stumbled back. This isn't love, she whispered. It's agony. The river shimmered. It is both. Then take both, she said. But the river answered softly. If I take the pain entirely, I must also take the shape of the love that made it matter. And then the river showed her Yasin, laughing as a baby. Yasin, learning to walk. Yasin, asleep against her shoulder. Yasin pressing wildflowers into her hand. Mira fell to her knees. If I erase the pain of losing him, I erase the joy of having him. If I remove the ache, I must also remove the hands that placed it there. I can lighten the weight, but I cannot turn love into nothing. Mira wept beside the glowing water. Then, finally, she asked, "What can you take?" The river answered, "I can take the guilt that tells you you should have done more, the guilt that replays the final night, as if suffering could rewrite it. I can take the cruelty of memory, the part that shows you only death, and not life." Mira thought of all the nights she had blamed herself. If I had done more, if I had noticed sooner, if I had prayed harder. Slowly, she nodded. "Take that," she whispered. "Take the part that punishes me." The river accepted. A thin silver thread of water rose from the surface and wrapped once around her wrist. Cool, gentle, sacred. Something inside her loosened, not all at once, but enough for breath to return. For the first time in years, she remembered Yassine's laugh, before she remembered his death. And though it still hurt, the pain no longer felt like punishment. It felt like love, with nowhere to go. When the moon rose higher, Mira stood. Oh, oh. The river looked ordinary again, dark, quiet, secretive. Will you remember him? Ah? She asked. The water rippled softly. I remember everyone, the river replied. The woman who lost her husband before goodbye. The old man who forgot his own name, but never his wife's. The child who blamed himself for his parents' silence. And I will remember your son, the way he laughed before rain, the way he loved horses with broken wheels, the way he called for you when he was afraid. No sorrow given to me is ever lost. People did not come to the river to erase the past. They came so they would not have to hold it alone. The river was not a thief of sorrow. It was a witness, a keeper, a place where pain could be set down without being denied. Mira turned toward home. Her life was still changed forever, but the night no longer felt endless. And for now, that was enough. That was when Mira understood. Her son was still gone. Her life was still changed forever, but the night no longer felt endless. And for now, that was enough. Years later, Mira still returned to Safa River, not to forget, but to remember gently. So if you ever hear of a silent river hidden beyond the hills, a river where people go to leave behind what hurts, know this: the river may carry sadness away, but it does not wash away love. It only teaches you how to hold it without drowning. And somewhere in the quiet language of water, every sorrow you survive is still being remembered.